Politics is a dirty game. This is a phrase that is as old as politics itself. But realistically, is politics supposed to be a dirty game? Let's look at it from another perspective. Politics is a word, a concept, an entity. It is not a force separated from the people who partake in it. So it's obvious that the people in a religion would determine how the politics in that region is. And in a society, there can never be only good or only bad people, as the world would always have its balance. But in a society where morals and righteousness is almost meaningless to the majority and has lost its value, what would you expect from the politicians who rule in it? What's up, people of this weird planet called Earth? Welcome to episode 40 of history's most influential humans podcast. I'm your humble host, Damilare Mapa. And on this first episode in 2023, I'd like to wish all my listeners an amazing 2023 ahead. And thank you so much for your support in 2022. I hope you stick with me through 2023. Thank you. So on today's episode, I'll be taking you all to medieval Italy to learn from the life of one of their most influential figures, Niccolo Machiavelli, a man who has been said to be a teacher of evil. Why was he called this? Well, let's find out. Machiavelli was born in Florence, Italy on the 3rd of May, 1469. He was also the third child and first son of his parents, Attorney Bernardo di Niccolo Machiavelli, who was a lawyer, and his wife, Bartolomeo di Stefano Leni. That's Nelly. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Machiavelli received an extensive formal education and got his first job as a secretary for the city of Florence. Soon after his appointment in 1494, Florence expelled the Medici family, who had ruled them for about 60 years as monarchs, and restored a republic after suffering decades of political instability, which must have given Machiavelli the knowledge to create one of the most controversial political documents ever. After the restoration of the Republic, Machiavelli was appointed to an office of the Second Chancery, a writing office that put him in charge of the production of official government documents, and shortly after, he was also made the secretary of the Diecidi Libretta e Pace. I'm sure that must have been a very important task. So throughout his life, he continued changing positions and even careers over and over again. He went from being an important diplomat to a semi-successful general to an enemy of the state after the Medici family came back to power in the 16th century, after which Machiavelli was tortured and exiled for being accused of conspiracy against the Medici family. Interesting. After the dreadful event, he finally retired into his farm estate, where he devoted himself to studying and writing his political ideologies. Although he was a failed politician, in quotes, Machiavelli was always to be remembered as an influential man because of two most important and controversial books amongst all his writings, named The Prince and The Discourses of Lily. Those were the two books that he wrote that was most influential. In these books, he described the major problems of politics in his view. He said that it is almost impossible to be a good politician and a good person at the same time. Machiavelli proposed that the overwhelming responsibility of a leader, which he widely referred to as a prince in his own sense, a prince is a leader. The responsibility of a leader, according to him, is to defend the state from external and internal threats by any means necessary for the stability of rule and governance. In his view, he removed moral and ethical hindrances to describe political realism and not political idealism, which is said to be of distinctive contrast. Machiavelli said that a prince should neither give the impression of being too soft or easy to disobey. Likewise, they should not find him extremely cruel to the extent that it disgusts his subject. When faced with the question of whether it was better for a ruler to be feared or loved, Machiavelli said that while it be wonderful for a ruler to be both loved and obeyed, a ruler should always tilt to the side of inspiring terror for this, in quote, is what keeps people in check. The ideal Christians of Machiavelli's time emphasized that rulers should be merciful, honest, generous, and tolerant, and so many other nice things. They said being a good Christian was symbolic to being a good politician. Machiavelli argued against this and gave an example of an ideal Christian that ruled during his time. His name was Girolamo Savonarola, who briefly ruled Florence in 1494. When Girolamo was ruler, he promised to build a city of God on earth in the city of Florence. He preached against the excesses and tyranny of the Medici government and managed to lead the city of Florence for just a few months as a peaceful, democratic, and relatively honest state. Subsequently, Savonarola was captured by the henchman of a corrupt pope named Alexander, who tortured him, hanged him in the center of the city, and then burnt the body. Wow. Machiavelli said that it didn't last because of its weakness that always emphasized on being good in the Christian view. In Machiavelli's words, this is what happens to the nice guys in politics. Well, subsequently, which is not surprising, the Catholic Church banned Machiavelli's works for 200 years because of the way he argued that being a good Christian is incompatible with being a good leader. But is there really any importance to the so-called truth that Machiavelli boldly stated? Looking from the view of some scholars, they said that despite the seemingly cruel tactics his book uses to define a successful ruler, it also gives those that would be ruled the insights on the tactics politicians use, so as to be self-aware and not ignorant. And for those who aren't politicians, they say that his insights are important generally, as the real world is cruel and humans can't be good for all things, as we would require taking some hard decisions to become effective and productive. Well, as everyone would, Machiavelli died on 21st of June 1527 at the young age of 58. Well, the world continues to love and hate Machiavelli for telling us a so-called truth that you cannot have a nice and effective politician at the same time. Well, everybody has their various opinions. So that will be it on the first episode of HMIH podcast, this 2023 fam. I wish you an amazing rest of your January. Damilare Mapa out. Peace.